All right, we're about to dive into what looks like a 3,000-year-old legal document, but trust me, this is anything but dry. This is a real, raw blueprint for a brand new society that's trying to solve one of the biggest problems we still face today. How do you stay fair when something goes terribly, terribly wrong? And really, it all comes down to this massive question. How do you build a world, a society that has both unwavering justice and deep, compassionate mercy? I mean, how do you even begin to weigh a life that was taken by accident against one that was taken on purpose? Well, this chapter, it gives us a surprisingly practical answer. So, here's how we're going to walk through it, in four main parts. First up, we'll look at how they built a safe haven for the innocent. Then, we'll flip the coin and see how they made sure there was no escape for the guilty. After that, we'll explore why something as simple as a property line was considered a pillar of their whole society. And we'll wrap up by looking at the incredible life-or-death power of a single word in the courtroom. Okay, let's set the scene. You've got a brand new nation setting up shop in a new land. I mean, before they can even get their boxes unpacked, they have to lay down the law. And what's the very first thing on the agenda? Protecting people from life-altering, tragic mistakes.
So, verse 1, this is our establishing shot. The people of Israel are moving into their new territory. You can imagine the feeling, right? It's a huge moment of victory, of promise, but it could also be total chaos. So, before anyone even has a chance to settle down, a critical priority is laid out. We need a legal system right now, and it's going to start with protecting life above all else.
All right, verses 2 and 3 get right into the nuts and bolts. This isn't just some vague idea, it's a plan for actual infrastructure. Step 1, designate 3 specific cities as official safe zones. Step 2, prepare the roads leading to them. I mean, you gotta make sure access is fast and easy, right? And step 3, divide the whole land into 3 districts. The point? To make sure that no matter where a terrible accident happens, a safe place is always within reach. We're talking a life-or-death sprint away.
Now, verse 4 gets super specific about who these cities are for. They're for the manslayer. And let's be clear, this isn't just any killer. The text is absolutely crystal clear. It's for someone who kills another person unintentionally, someone who had no prior hatred. That's the key distinction right there. This isn't about letting a murderer off the hook. It's about protecting someone from the consequences of a horrible, tragic mistake. And then verse 5, wow, it paints this heartbreakingly vivid picture. Just imagine it. 2 guys, maybe friends, out chopping wood in the forest. One of them swings his axe, and the iron axe head just flies off the handle. It strikes his friend, and he dies. Just like that. It's a horrific freak accident. And in that single moment of shock, panic, and grief, the law gives one clear, desperate instruction. Run. Run to one of these cities, and you will live. So why does he need to run? Verse 6 explains everything. The victim's closest relative, who's called the Avenger of Blood, has the legal right to pursue justice. But think about it. In that moment of pure grief and just white-hot anger, he's probably not going to stop to ask if it was an accident, is he? And this sets up this incredible high-stakes chase scene. It's literally a race against rage, and the finish line is the difference between life and death. Verse 7 just drives the point home. It leaves zero room for doubt. This whole system isn't just a good idea or a helpful suggestion. It's a direct command. You shall separate 3 cities for yourself. So mercy for an accident? That's not some optional add-on. It's a non-negotiable, foundational piece of their entire justice system. Okay, so we've built a haven for the innocent. That's one side of the coin. But what about the other side? What happens when the killing isn't an accident? Let's dig into that now. So verses 8 through 10 are pretty cool. They're all about future-proofing this system of justice. It's designed to grow. The instruction is, if and when your territory expands, you have to add 3 more cities of refuge. And why is this so important? Verse 10 tells us exactly why. It's to prevent innocent blood from being shed in the land. And that's a double meaning, right? It protects the victims of actual murder, but it also protects the accidental killer from being wrongly killed by that avenger of blood. Verse 11, man, it just draws this razor-sharp line in the sand. On one side, you've got the tragic accident we talked about, but on the other side, the text describes it with chilling detail. A person who hates his neighbor, who lies in wait for him, and then attacks. Yeah, that's not a mistake. That's cold-blooded, premeditated murder.
So, you might be wondering, what if a real murderer tries to game the system and hides out in one of these cities? Well, verse 12 is totally clear on this. That city of refuge is not a hideout for criminals. The elders from the murderer's own hometown are required to send for him, pull him out of that safe city, and hand him over to the avenger of blood. That's it. Protection revoked. And verse 13 is, wow, it's intense. It says, your eye shall not pity him. The idea is that for the community to stay healthy and just, it has to have the moral courage to carry out the sentence. This act is even described as purging the guilt of innocent blood from the whole nation. It sets a really hard boundary. Mercy is for mistakes, but for intentional evil, justice has to be absolute. Okay, so we've gone from life and death situations, and now the law pivots to something that might seem kind of small in comparison, but is just as crucial for a peaceful society, and that's boundaries. Verse 14 is just one sentence, but it's incredibly profound. It basically says, don't move your neighbor's landmark. We're talking about those simple stone markers that showed where one person's property ended and another's began. You have to remember, in an agricultural society, moving that stone, that wasn't just simple theft. You were stealing a family's livelihood, their food source, their entire future inheritance. This little law shows that a stable society isn't just about protecting lives. It's also about protecting livelihoods. All right, for our final section, the scene shifts. We're moving into the courtroom. We've dealt with physical violence, we've dealt with property rights, and now the law is going to tackle a completely different kind of weapon, the weapon of a lie. Verse 15 lays down a legal principle that is, frankly, a cornerstone of Western law even today. And it's simple. One witness is not enough to convict someone of a crime. Period. You need at least 2, maybe 3 people to back up the story. This is such a powerful, built-in safeguard against someone with a personal grudge just trying to frame their enemy. But that leads to the next obvious question, right? Which is what verse 16 asks. What if you get 2 or more people who are all lying? What do you do when a malicious witness gets up and tries to destroy someone's life with a false accusation? Well, verses 17 and 18 lay out the whole procedure. It's basically a trial within a trial. Both people involved, the accuser and the accused, are brought before the highest court in the land. And the judges, they can't just phone it in. The text says they have to make a careful inquiry. They have a duty to dig deep and find out what really happened. And then you get to verse 19, and it lays out this absolutely stunning principle of justice. If the witness is found to be lying, their punishment isn't just some fine or a slap on the wrist. No way. They get the exact same punishment they were trying to bring down on the innocent person. Think about that. If you lied to get someone executed, then you would be executed. The punishment perfectly fits the intended crime. So why such a harsh penalty? Verse 20 explains the powerful logic behind it. It's all about deterrence. The idea is that when everyone else sees the severe personal consequences of lying in court, they will hear and fear, and they'll think long and hard before ever trying to poison the well of justice with a lie. It's all about protecting the integrity of the whole system. And this whole section ends with verse 21, which contains one of the most famous and maybe one of the most misunderstood phrases in the entire Bible. In this legal context, eye for an eye, tooth for tooth is not a green light for personal revenge. Not at all. It's the ultimate principle of proportional justice, carried out by a court of law. It means the punishment has to fit the crime, no more, no less. It's a way to make sure justice is impartial and never excessive. And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. This ancient legal blueprint drew some incredibly clear lines in the sand to separate a tragic mistake from a malicious crime, and to separate a devastating lie from the truth. In our own complex world, which is so full of gray areas, it really makes you ask, how do we draw those same lines? How do we build a system today that can be both profoundly just and deeply merciful?